My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 32 years old. I thought I knew what abandonment felt like until the day my own mother left me stranded at Chicago O'Hare International Airport when I was just 15. But what happened next would change everything I thought I knew about family, love, and the power we have to rewrite our own stories. Picture this: a teenage girl standing alone in one of the busiest airports in the world, clutching a suitcase that was supposed to be for the family vacation of a lifetime. The departure board flickered above me like a countdown to my worst nightmare. Flight 447 to Cancun had already boarded. My mother, stepfather Richard, and his two perfect children were somewhere beyond security, probably settling into their first-class seats while I stood there like a forgotten piece of luggage. The worst part: she'd planned it all along. 20 minutes earlier, Mom had squeezed my hand in the terminal and said those words that still echo in my nightmares. "Sarah, honey, I need you to go to the bathroom and wait there for 10 minutes. Don't come out until I text you, okay? It's a surprise." Her smile was too bright, too forced, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. I was so naive, so desperate for her approval that I actually believed her lies. When I finally emerged from that bathroom, my phone buzzed with a single text message. Something came up with the tickets. "Take a cab home. Love you." That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just 27 words that shattered my entire world. I called her phone 17 times. Each ring felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. When it finally went to voicemail, I heard her voice chirping about being out of the country, and to leave a message after the beep. Standing there in that crowded terminal, watching families rush past me toward their gates, I realized something that would haunt me for years. I had never been Richard's child, and now I wasn't even really my mother's child anymore. I was just an inconvenience she'd finally found a way to dispose of. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because that moment of abandonment, it was actually the beginning of the most incredible journey of my life. If you've ever felt forgotten by the people who were supposed to love you most, stay with me. This story is about discovering that sometimes the most beautiful chapters of our lives begin with the most devastating endings. And trust me, you won't believe what happened when my mother finally came home from that vacation. The first thing I did was panic. Real, ugly, hyperventilating panic that made airport security eye me with concern. A kind woman named Mrs. Chen, who was waiting for her own flight, sat down beside me and offered tissues while I sobbed into my hands. "Sweetheart, where are your parents?" she asked gently. "Gone," I whispered. "They left me." Mrs. Chen's face shifted from concern to something much darker, anger. "What do you mean, they left you?" Through my tears, I explained everything. The surprise vacation to Mexico that Richard had been planning for months. How excited I'd been to finally be included in their perfect little blended family. The new bikinis Mom and I had bought together just 3 days ago. The way she'd hugged me that morning and said this trip would bring us all closer together. All lies. Mrs. Chen stayed with me for 2 hours, buying me food and helping me figure out what to do next. She even offered to let me stay with her family, but I knew there was only one person I could call. The problem was, I hadn't spoken to him in over 3 years. My father, Dad, or James Mitchell as I'd started thinking of him after the divorce, lived in Boston now. He was some big-shot investment banker who sent birthday cards with $100 bills tucked inside but never called. Mom always said he was too busy building his empire to care about his daughter. But sitting in that airport, abandoned and alone, I had nowhere else to turn. My hands shook as I dialed his number. It rang once, twice. On the third ring, a familiar voice answered. "James Mitchell." "Dad." My voice cracked. "It's Sarah." The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, "Sarah? Honey, what's wrong? You sound upset." Everything came pouring out. The airport. The vacation. Mom's text message. Richard's perfect children who got to go on the trip that was supposed to include me. I cried so hard I could barely speak. Where are you right now? His voice had changed, becoming sharp and focused in a way I remembered from my childhood. Chicago O'Hare. Terminal 3. Don't move. I'm coming to get you. But Dad, you're in Boston, and I don't have anywhere to. Sarah. His voice was firm but warm. You're my daughter. I'm coming to get you right now. Find somewhere safe to sit and wait for me. Can you do that? I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Yes. Good girl. I'll be there soon. The line went dead, and for the first time in hours, I felt like I could breathe again. Mrs. Chen stayed with me until my phone rang 2 hours later. Sarah. This is Captain Rodriguez from Midwest Aviation. Your father sent me to collect you. Are you near the American Airlines customer service desk? I looked around, confused. Yes, but. Perfect. Look for a man in a Navy uniform holding a sign with your name. And there he was. A professional-looking pilot holding a small white sign that read, Sarah Mitchell. But this wasn't some random charter service. As we walked through the airport, he led me toward a section I'd never seen before. The private aviation terminal. Where are we going? I asked. Captain Rodriguez smiled. Your father's jet is waiting. My father owned a private jet. Mom had never mentioned that detail during all her rants about him being too busy for his family. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the most luxurious aircraft I'd ever seen, watching Chicago disappear beneath the clouds. The flight attendant, yes, there was a flight attendant, brought me hot chocolate and asked if I needed anything else. As we soared through the sky toward Boston, I realized something that would change everything. Mom hadn't just abandoned me at that airport. She'd accidentally given me the greatest gift of my life. She'd given me back my father. But what I didn't know yet was that Dad had been planning something of his own. Something that would turn Mom's cruel vacation into the biggest mistake she'd ever made. When we landed at Boston's Logan Airport, Dad was waiting on the tarmac. He looked older than I remembered, with silver threading through his dark hair, but his eyes were the same warm brown I'd inherited. When he pulled me into his arms, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, he whispered into my hair. I should have been there for you long before today. As we drove through Boston toward his house, which turned out to be a stunning brownstone in Back Bay, he explained things that Mom had never told me. Like how he'd been trying to get joint custody for years, but Mom and her lawyer had made it nearly impossible. How every birthday card and Christmas gift had been carefully chosen because he was only allowed specific types of contact. Your mother told the courts I was unstable, he said quietly as we pulled into his driveway. She said my work schedule made me an unfit parent. But Sarah, I want you to know, there hasn't been a single day in the past 5 years that I haven't thought about you. That night, in a beautiful bedroom that Dad had apparently been keeping ready for me, just in case, I fell asleep feeling more loved than I had in years. But I had no idea that while I was finally safe in my father's house, Mom was posting pictures on social media from her perfect vacation with a perfect new family. Pictures that didn't include me at all. As if I'd never existed in the first place. Waking up in Dad's house was like stepping into a parallel universe where I mattered. The bedroom he'd prepared for me wasn't some hastily thrown-together guest room. It was a teenage girl's dream. Soft lavender walls, a window seat overlooking Boston Common, and a bookshelf filled with all the novels I'd mentioned loving in our rare phone calls over the years. He'd been listening. All those brief conversations Mom had reluctantly allowed, he'd been paying attention to every word. I know this must be overwhelming, Dad said over breakfast, setting down a plate of perfectly fluffy pancakes. But I want you to know you can stay here as long as you need. Forever, if that's what you want. What about school? I asked, suddenly realizing I was supposed to start my sophomore year in 3 weeks back in Ohio. Dad's expression grew serious. That's something we need to talk about. Sarah, I've been working with a family lawyer for the past 2 years, trying to modify our custody arrangement. Your mother's been fighting me every step of the way. He pulled out a thick manila folder from a kitchen drawer. I've documented every missed visit, every phone call she's cut short, every birthday party I wasn't invited to. But what happened yesterday, abandoning you at the airport, that changes everything. Over the next few days, I learned things about my parents' divorce that shattered everything I thought I knew. Mom had painted Dad as the villain who chose work over family, but the truth was far more complicated. I was working those long hours to pay for your mother's credit card debt, Dad explained as we walked through Boston Public Garden. She'd racked up nearly $50,000 in shopping expenses during our marriage. When I asked her to get help for her spending problem, she filed for divorce and moved to Ohio with you before I could even respond. The worst part. She'd been telling people, including me, that Dad had abandoned us financially. But sitting in his lawyer's office, I saw years of bank statements showing monthly support payments that were 3 times the court-mandated amount. Your father has never missed a payment, his attorney, Ms. Rodriguez, explained. In fact, he's been overpaying and setting aside additional money in a college fund for you. He's also been paying for your health insurance, even though your mother told the courts she was handling it. I felt sick. But Mom always said he didn't care about me, that he was too busy with his new life to bother with his old family. Ms. Rodriguez and Dad exchanged a look. Sarah, she said gently, your father has never remarried. He's been waiting for the chance to be part of your life again. That evening, Dad showed me something that broke my heart in the most beautiful way. His home office had an entire wall dedicated to me. Photos from my childhood, report cards he'd somehow obtained copies of, newspaper clippings from my middle school theater performances, and artwork I'd made in elementary school that I thought had been thrown away. How did you get all of this? I whispered, touching a clay handprint I'd made in 2nd grade. Your grandmother on your mother's side, he said quietly. She'd send me things secretly. Pictures, school projects, anything she could manage without your mother knowing. She felt terrible about how I was being kept out of your life. Grandma rose. I hadn't seen her in over a year because Mom said she was getting too old and confused. But apparently, she'd been my guardian angel, making sure Dad stayed connected to my life even when Mom was trying to erase him completely. Why didn't you fight harder? I asked, the question that had been burning in my chest for days. Dad sat down heavily in his desk chair. I did fight, sweetheart. For 2 years, I battled in court. But every time I pushed, your mother would threaten to move even farther away or claim I was harassing her. Her lawyer was very good at making me look like the problem. And I was terrified that if I pushed too hard, I'd lose even the little contact I had with you. He pulled out another folder, this one even thicker. But I never stopped documenting everything. Every broken promise, every cancelled visit, every time she hung up on me when I called to talk to you. I was building a case, waiting for the right moment. What kind of moment? Dad's expression grew dark. The kind where she would make such a big mistake that no judge could ignore it. Like abandoning her 15-year-old daughter at an airport to go on vacation with her new family. Meanwhile, my phone had been buzzing constantly with messages from my friends back home. Emma, my best friend since 6th grade, was frantic. Sarah, your mom posted pics from Mexico and you're not in any of them. She said you're visiting family, but everyone's asking where you are. What happened? I stared at the messages, feeling that familiar twist in my stomach. Even from 1,000 miles away, Mom was crafting her narrative, making herself look like the victim. To everyone back home, she was the devoted single mother, enjoying a well-deserved vacation while her daughter visited relatives. No one knew the truth about what she'd done. But Dad was about to change that. "I've filed for emergency custody," he told me over dinner that night, "based on abandonment and endangerment. We have witnesses from the airport, phone records, and your mother's own social media posts proving she left the country while you were stranded." "What does that mean?" "It means you're not going back to Ohio unless you choose to. And it means your mother is going to have to face a judge and explain why she thought it was acceptable to leave her minor child alone in an airport." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something that wasn't sadness or fear. I felt hope. But I should have known that Mom wouldn't go down without a fight. And when desperate people feel cornered, they do desperate things. 3 days later, my phone rang. Mom's number flashed on the screen, and my heart started racing. "Sarah." "Oh, sweetheart, I've been so worried." Her voice was syrupy sweet, the tone she used when she wanted something. "There was a terrible mix-up with the airline tickets, and by the time we figured it out, you were already gone. Your father kidnapped you before we could explain." Kidnapped. She was actually going to try to spin this as Dad being the villain. "Mom," I said slowly, "you sent me a text saying to take a cab home." "What?" "No, honey, I never. Oh my God, I think my phone was hacked. Sarah, you have to come home right now. Richard and I are driving to Boston to get you. This is all just a big misunderstanding." But I wasn't 15 and desperate anymore. 5 days with Dad had reminded me what it felt like to be truly loved and protected. "No," I said simply. The silence stretched so long I wondered if she'd hung up. Then her voice came back, and all the sweetness was gone. "Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell, you get home right now, or you'll regret it. I am still your mother, and you are still my child. Your father is filling your head with lies, just like he always did." "What lies, Mom? That you left me at the airport? Because I have the text message you sent. You come home now, or I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "Dad's already filed for custody. And Mom, next time you want to abandon your daughter, maybe don't post vacation photos on Instagram while you're doing it." I hung up the phone and immediately burst into tears. Not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up to her. Dad found me crying on the couch and pulled me into one of his warm hugs. "You did great, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. She's going to try to take me back, isn't she?" "She's going to try," he said. "But Sarah, I want you to know something. I've been preparing for this fight for years. I have resources now that I didn't have when you were little. Better lawyers, documented evidence, and most importantly, you're old enough now that the court will listen to what you want. What if she makes up lies about you? She's good at that." Dad was quiet for a moment. "Your mother is very good at manipulation. She always has been. But this time, she's made a mistake she can't talk her way out of. She's created a paper trail of her own abandonment." That night, I called Grandma Rose. The conversation we had would reveal the final piece of the puzzle, and make me understand just how deep Mom's deception really went. "Oh, Sarah," Grandma whispered when she heard my voice. "Thank God you're safe. I've been worried sick since I saw those vacation photos. Where are you, sweetheart?" "I'm with Dad in Boston, Grandma. Why didn't you ever tell me he was trying to see me?" The silence on the other end of the line was answer enough. "She threatened me," Grandma finally admitted. "Said if I helped your father or told you the truth, she'd never let me see you again. Sarah, your mother, she's not well. She hasn't been for a long time." "What do you mean?" "The lying, the manipulation, the way she spends money they don't have, and the way she's been trying to erase your father from your life, like he never existed. It's not normal, honey. I've been begging her to get help, but she won't listen. As I hung up the phone, I realized that everything I thought I knew about my family had been carefully constructed lies. But the truth was finally coming to light. And Mom was about to discover that abandoning me at that airport hadn't just freed her from an inconvenient daughter. It had freed me from her. 2 weeks into my new life in Boston, the legal papers arrived. Dad's emergency custody petition had been fast-tracked due to the abandonment issue, and Mom was being ordered to appear in court within 10 days to explain her actions. But Mom wasn't going down quietly. The first sign of her counterattack came through Emma, who called me in tears. "Sarah, your mom came to my house today," Emma said, her voice shaking. "She was crying and saying your dad had brainwashed you or something. She asked me to help get you to come home because she's losing her baby." My stomach dropped. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know where you were." "But Sarah, she was acting really strange. She kept talking about how your dad was dangerous and how he'd stolen you away from her. My mom asked her to leave." This was just the beginning. Over the next few days, Mom launched a full-scale character assassination campaign. She called my old school, claiming Dad had abducted me and that she needed help getting me back. She contacted our old neighbors, spinning tales about how Dad was keeping me prisoner in Boston and wouldn't let me call home. She even called the Boston police. "Mr. Mitchell." The officer who came to Dad's door was professional but serious. "We've received a report that you're harboring a runaway minor. We need to speak with your daughter." My heart hammered as Dad led the officer into our living room. This was it. Mom had found a way to force me back. But Dad was prepared. He handed the officer a folder containing the custody filing, the airport witness statements, and screenshots of Mom's social media posts from Mexico. "Officer, my daughter wasn't a runaway. She was abandoned at Chicago O'Hare by her mother, who then left the country on vacation. Everything is documented here, including the emergency custody motion that's currently before the court." The officer read through the papers, his expression growing more serious with each page. When he looked up at me, his tone had completely changed. "Sarah, are you here because you want to be?" "Yes, sir," I said firmly. "Has your father or anyone else threatened you or forced you to stay?" "No, sir. My mom left me at the airport. My dad came to get me." The officer closed the folder and stood up. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to make some calls, but it looks like you're following proper legal channels. Sarah, if you ever feel unsafe or want to leave, you can call us any time. But as far as I can see, you're exactly where you should be." After the officer left, Dad sat down beside me on the couch. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. Your mother is scared, and scared people sometimes make poor choices." "She's not scared," I said bitterly. "She's angry that her plan didn't work." "What do you mean?" I'd been thinking about this for days, and the pieces were finally clicking together. "Dad, she didn't abandon me by accident. She planned it. Think about it. She knew I didn't have anywhere to go. She thought I'd just sit at home and wait for her to come back, feeling grateful that she didn't completely throw me away." Dad's face grew dark. "Sarah. She wanted to start her new family without me, but she didn't want to look like the bad guy. So she created a situation where I'd be so desperate and grateful that I'd accept whatever scraps of attention she gave me when she got back." The more I talked, the clearer it became. "She never expected me to call you. She's been telling me for years that you didn't want me, remember? She thought I'd just disappear into the background of her perfect new life." Dad was quiet for a long moment. "If that's true, then she's made an even bigger mistake than I thought." 3 days later, we found out just how big that mistake was. Ms. Rodriguez called us into her office with news that changed everything. "Sarah, I've been digging into your mother's finances as part of the custody case, and what I found is concerning." She spread papers across her desk. Bank statements, credit card bills, court documents I'd never seen before. Your mother owes over $80,000 in credit card debt. The house you've been living in? It's in foreclosure. Has been for 6 months. My mouth fell open. But that's impossible. Richard has a good job, and Mom always talks about how well they're doing. Richard has been trying to bail her out, but your mother's spending has accelerated since their marriage. This vacation to Mexico? It was charged to a credit card that's already maxed out. They can't afford the payments on it. Dad leaned forward. What does this mean for Sarah? It means your mother has been using Sarah's child support payments to fund her lifestyle instead of caring for Sarah. And there's more. Ms. Rodriguez pulled out another document. Sarah, did you know your father set up a college fund for you when you were born? I shook my head. He's been contributing to it every month since the divorce. It currently has over $60,000 in it. But 3 months ago, your mother tried to get access to it, claiming it was for your educational expenses. What kind of educational expenses? Dad asked. Private school tuition for Richard's children. The room spun around me. Mom had been planning to steal my college money to pay for her stepchildren's education while keeping me in public school. The bank denied her request because she's not the account administrator, Ms. Rodriguez continued. But Sarah, if she'd gained primary custody and your father had been declared unfit, she would have eventually gotten access to that money. So the airport thing, I whispered, may have been part of a larger plan to push your father into doing something that could be painted as kidnapping or unfit behavior. If he'd tried to take you without proper legal channels, she could have used it against him in court. But Dad hadn't taken the bait. He'd done everything by the book, documented everything, and now Mom's own actions were being used against her. There's something else, Ms. Rodriguez said. I hired a private investigator to look into your mother's claims about your father being absent from your life. She pulled out a thick file. Your father has sent over 300 letters to you over the past 5 years. Your mother returned them all to sender, unopened. He's also sent birthday and Christmas gifts that were apparently never given to you. My chest tightened. What kind of gifts? Dad looked uncomfortable. Sarah, I didn't want you to know about this. What kind of gifts, Dad? Ms. Rodriguez opened the file. Art supplies, because your father knew you loved to draw. Books by authors you'd mentioned liking. Concert tickets for shows in Ohio, hoping your mother would bring you. A laptop for your 13th birthday, still in its box because it was returned to the sender. I started crying. Not the gentle tears I'd been shedding lately, but deep, angry sobs that shook my whole body. Mom hadn't just kept Dad away from me. She'd stolen years of love and connection that should have been mine. She told me you didn't care, I choked out. She said you were too busy with your new life to bother with your daughter. I never had a new life, Dad said quietly. You were my life. You've always been my life. That evening, alone in my room, I did something I'd never done before. I wrote a letter to the judge who would be deciding my custody case. Not because Ms. Rodriguez asked me to, but because I needed him to understand what Mom had really done to our family. Your Honor, I wrote, my name is Sarah Mitchell, and I am 15 years old. My mother didn't just abandon me at the airport. She stole my father from me for 5 years with lies and manipulation. She made me believe I was unwanted and unloved, when the truth was that my father was fighting for me every single day. I don't want to go back to a house that's being foreclosed on, to a woman who is planning to steal my college money, or to a life built on lies. I want to stay with my father, who flew across the country to rescue me and who has been waiting for me to come home for years. My mother didn't lose me at the airport. She lost me the moment she chose her new family over her daughter. But it turns out, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. because it led me back to my dad. But even as I wrote those words, I knew the fight wasn't over. Mom was desperate now, and desperate people are dangerous. She was about to pull out her biggest weapon yet, one that would test everything Dad and I had rebuilt together. Because 2 days before the custody hearing, she made an accusation that could destroy Dad's life forever. An accusation that was so devastating, so perfectly crafted to hurt us both, that even I began to wonder if I really knew my father at all. The call came at 6 in the morning, 2 days before our custody hearing. Dad's phone rang, and I heard his voice change immediately from sleepy confusion to sharp alertness. "What do you mean, allegations?" he said, sitting up straight in bed. I crept to my bedroom door, my heart pounding. Something was very, very wrong. "No, absolutely not. That's insane. She can't just..." Dad's voice trailed off, and I heard him getting dressed quickly. 20 minutes later, he knocked on my bedroom door, his face gray with stress. "Sarah, I need you to sit down. Something's happened." My stomach dropped to the floor. "What is it?" "Your mother has made some serious accusations against me. She's filed a police report claiming that I've been inappropriate with you. She's saying that's why she's been trying to keep you away from me all these years." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? Dad, that's crazy. You would never." "I know that, and you know that, but Sarah..." He sat down heavily in my desk chair. "This is exactly what she wanted. One accusation like this, and everything we've built, all the evidence we have, it all becomes meaningless. Even if it's proven false, the suspicion will always be there." I felt rage building in my chest like nothing I'd ever experienced. Mom hadn't just abandoned me. Now she was trying to destroy the one parent who'd actually loved me. "She's not going to get away with this," I said fiercely. "Sweetheart, I need you to understand how serious this is. I'm going to have to step back from the custody case until this is investigated. You might have to go back to Ohio temporarily, or into state care, until..." "No." My voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. "Absolutely not." Dad looked surprised. "Sarah, we may not have a choice." "Yes, we do." I grabbed my laptop and opened it. "Dad, you said Mom is good at manipulation, right? Well, she just made her biggest mistake yet." "What do you mean?" I pulled up Mom's social media accounts. "Look at this. Every single post from the Mexico vacation. Look at the timing." Dad leaned over to see the screen. "I don't understand. She posted these pictures while she was on vacation, right? While I was missing, and she was supposedly worried sick about me." I scrolled through the posts. "Look at the timestamps. Pool party with the kids. Romantic dinner with Richard. Beach selfies. All posted in real time while she was supposedly frantically searching for her kidnapped daughter." Dad's eyes widened. "Sarah, if she really believed you were dangerous, if she really thought you'd hurt me, would she be posting happy vacation photos? Wouldn't she be calling the police, the FBI, everyone?" I pulled up more evidence. "And look at this. She tagged Richard's ex-wife in these photos. She was showing off her perfect family vacation. If she really thought I was in danger, would she be bragging about her trip on social media?" Dad stared at the screen, and I saw hope creeping back into his expression. "There's more," I said, opening my text messages. Every message she sent me while they were gone. "Hope you're having fun with your father. Enjoy your visit." Nothing about being worried or scared. She knew exactly where I was and that I was safe. But the real breakthrough came when Ms. Rodriguez called an hour later. "James, I need you and Sarah in my office immediately. I just got off the phone with someone who's going to change everything." At the lawyer's office, we were introduced to a woman I'd never seen before. middle-aged, professional, with kind but tired eyes. Sarah, this is Dr. Patricia Williams. She's a family therapist who's been counseling your stepfather Richard for the past year. Dr. Williams looked uncomfortable but determined. I'm breaking confidentiality because I believe a child is in danger, not from her father, but from her mother. Richard has been in therapy because he's been struggling with your mother's behavior toward you, Sarah. My mouth fell open. What? Richard has been documenting incidents of emotional abuse and neglect for months. He's been trying to figure out how to help you without destroying his marriage. When he saw those social media posts from Mexico and realized what your mother had done at the airport, he came to me in crisis. Dr. Williams pulled out a file. With Richard's permission, I'm sharing his therapy notes with the court. He's been recording conversations with your mother where she's talked about getting rid of you, finding ways to make your father look bad, and using you as a weapon against him. Richard recorded Mom? He was building a case to request custody of you himself, Dr. Williams explained. He was planning to divorce your mother and ask for you to live with him and his children. He felt terrible about what she was doing to you. The room was spinning. Richard, who I'd always seen as just Mom's enabling husband, had been trying to protect me? There's more, Ms. Rodriguez said. Richard has also provided bank statements showing that your mother has been forging his signature on credit card applications. The debt isn't just from shopping. She's been stealing from him too. Dr. Williams nodded. Richard is prepared to testify that your mother has been planning to abandon you for months. The airport incident wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. She's been telling him that once you were out of the picture, they could be a real family. My hands were shaking. So when she made those accusations against Dad, Richard called me immediately, Dr. Williams said. He said he couldn't let an innocent man be destroyed by your mother's lies. He's filing for divorce and seeking a restraining order against her. He's also prepared to adopt you if your father's custody is denied, to keep you away from her permanently. The next morning, everything fell apart for Mom at once. The police investigation into her accusations against Dad took exactly 3 hours. Between the social media evidence, Richard's recordings, and testimony from the airport witnesses, it became clear that Mom had fabricated everything. But more than that, when they searched her house, they found something that ended the custody case permanently. Hidden in her bedroom closet, investigators found a box containing every letter Dad had sent me over the years. Unopened birthday cards with checks inside. Christmas presents still in their wrapping. And most damaging of all, a journal where she'd written out her plans to eliminate James from Sarah's life permanently, and make Richard's children my only priority. She documented her own psychological abuse in her own handwriting. The custody hearing lasted exactly 20 minutes. Mom didn't even show up. She was too busy dealing with fraud charges and Richard's divorce attorney. Sarah, the judge said kindly, it's clear to me that your father has been fighting for you for years, while your mother has been actively working to damage your relationship with him. I'm granting your father full custody, effective immediately. But the real victory came 2 weeks later, when Richard called. Sarah, it's Richard. I just wanted you to know. The house sold yesterday. Your mother's moving back to live with her sister in Nevada. She won't be bothering you or your father anymore. Richard, I heard about what you did. The recordings, the testimony. Why? His voice was quiet. Because you deserved better than what she was giving you. My kids deserve better too. Your mother. She's sick, Sarah. I hope someday she gets help. But I couldn't let her keep hurting you. Are you okay? I asked. He laughed, but it sounded sad. I will be. And Sarah, your father's a good man. You're lucky to have him. As summer turned to fall, I started at a new school in Boston. I made friends quickly. Turns out, when you're not walking around,